Hey there, it's Youth Pastor Sam. If you can't tell, my hair is already going crazy because I can't get to a barber. So it's only going to get worse and worse as the weeks go by. So just keep in touch. It's going to get weird. But anyways, just recording here in the morning, drinking my morning cup of coffee, Mr. Slothy. Thank you, Casey, for this wonderful Christmas gift. But today I wanted to share a quick Covational this Monday morning, and it has to do with what Pastor Caleb talked about yesterday. If you're listening to the live stream, one of the things that he talked about was holding onto our sin, right? He held a water bottle, he held it far away, and he asked the question, how long do you think you can hold on to sin? How long do you think you can hold your mistakes, your failures, your guilt, your shame at an arm's length? Not for very long. In fact, I can hold this cup of coffee out for quite a while, but eventually this is going to get heavier and heavier to carry, isn't it? And the reality is that most of us are doing that in one way or another. There's guilt, there's shame, there's sorrow, there's anxiety, there's stress, there's so much that we're holding on to. Even in this time of quarantine, perhaps being alone with your family or being alone without your parents around has led you to some very poor decisions that have led to guilt and shame-ridden actions. Right? Maybe there are things that you wish that you could apologize for. Maybe there's a harsh word that has been said in your home that has caused division and disruption. Whatever it is, you're holding it at arm's length, and it's getting heavier and heavier to let go of. What I want to share this morning, along with that theme, is from a story in the Old Testament, in the book of 1 Samuel. And to give some context, it's about the prophet Samuel. The prophet Samuel, he was a judge over the nation of Israel, which means he was a ruler. People looked up to him, they recognized him. He functioned as a ruler, but not as a king. He functioned as a prophet in a way. And anyways, he was, one of his roles was to bring Israel back to the Lord. They had run away from God. In fact, they had run so far that they had lost the Ark of the Covenant, which is a huge ceremonial deal for the Israelites. And the Israelites were not listening to God at all. And so they went to Samuel. They went to Samuel and they said, Samuel, we want the blessings of God back. We want to know that He's on our side. We want to know that He's for us and He still loves us and He still cares for us. And then in 1 Samuel chapter 7, this is what he says. And Samuel said to the whole house of Israel, if, right, he's not very certain, is he? If you were returning to the Lord with all your hearts, then rid yourselves of the foreign gods and the Ashtaroths, and commit yourselves to the Lord and serve Him only, and He will deliver you out of the hand of the Philistines. So the Israelites put away their Baals and Ashtaroths and served the Lord only. That's an incredible passage. It's one of my favorite passages in the Bible. Why? Because this theme has been reiterated over and over and over again, that if we would just let go of what we are holding on to, what false gods, what false beliefs are we holding on to that's leading us to sin? Perhaps for you it's, I'm alone, nobody's going to know what I'm doing, so I'm going to do it anyways, because if nobody knows, then I'm not in trouble. That's a false belief that you can hold on to that'll eventually nip you in the butt. Perhaps a false belief that you're holding on to is that if I only have more intimacy with this man or woman that I love, then it'll be more fruitful relationship. And that is caused guilt and shame. That's a false belief that you're holding on to. Maybe during this time, you're thinking, I don't need to better myself. I don't even think I better myself in education. I don't want that. I don't need that. Well, that's a false belief. Education is so helpful for you. The people who wrote this were highly educated. Well, they were better educated than most people in their day, right? To write as much as they did in the time that they did. Education is so important, so essential to better your future. Perhaps a false belief or a false god that you're holding to is one of self. That it's all about me, it's all about what I want to get. Forget my brothers, forget my parents, forget everything else. I want to be all about me. And perhaps that's a false belief that you're holding on to. Right? If you would serve the Lord your God only, get rid of all the things that have caused you to carry guilt and shame. And this is what happens. They do that. They get rid of all their idols. They get rid of all all the junk that has led them to idol worship. And they win against the Philistines. And then this is what happens in verse 12. Then Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Shin. He named it Ebenezer, saying, "Thus far has the Lord helped us." This is a reality that rings true across the entire Bible, and it's still true today. That when we put aside our false beliefs, when we put aside our lies, when we put aside our sin, and everything that we struggle with, that we hold on to from a distance, when we let go of it and we let God enter into our lives, we can ring out with certainty and say, "Thus far has the Lord helped us." We can raise an Ebenezer, metaphorically speaking, talking about the victories, talking about the conquests that God has made in our lives, talking about the sin that He's helped us overcome through time, through prayers, through sacrifice, through dedication. We can raise an Ebenezer to all the friendships that have been grown and cultivated because of the authentic love and faith that comes from serving the Lord. So I encourage you, where you're at today, think about what is it that I'm still holding on to? What false beliefs do I still carry with me? And how can I let them go? And let God act for me. So Lord, I pray for our students who are listening to this. There are many false beliefs, there's many false idols that we have turned to in our hearts. Social status, romantic relationships, addictions, anxiety, stress. We hold on to so much that we shouldn't be. And you tell us in your word that if we would serve you with our whole heart, then we ought to throw away everything that would keep us from you. So I pray that we would do that today. I pray that we would commit each day to serve you more wholly and to be holy in the process. So in Jesus' name.